Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm reacting to Three Principal Paths. Number 2 for Tsem is Bodhicitta with subtitles. Let's go and get started because I know he talks about this. I've heard it many a times. I think he did give a definition to it, but I forgot. Again, I have terrible memory. Usually I hope to watch many videos that explain the same thing over again a little bit, or explain in many different ways so that I get a better understanding of it. So let's go and get started.
So the second qualification we need for Tantra is Bodhicitta. We need to develop Bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is very, very important. In short, Bodhicitta is not being nice to your wife, to your friends, people who give you business, who tolerate you, people who pat you in the back, and people who like you. Bodhicitta is having a thought that in this life, our mothers have been incredibly kind to us. From the time we were conceived inside her womb, and then birth, and then toddler, infancy, toddler, and how she took care of us, and how she wiped and cleaned us all the time, again and again and again, non-stop. And as we grew older, how she taught us and guided us and loved us, and would sacrifice herself for us at any cost. And then at the same time, when we grew older, even if we got into trouble, we did anything negative or bad, she will be there to rescue us. And this type of love that we receive from our mother is very, very hard to receive anywhere else in the world. Very, very hard. We can't even receive that from our wives and our children. It's very, very hard. So this kind of love and compassion that is totally without agenda, without motive, totally love. This type of love does exist beyond the parameters of a mother and child relationship.
Okay, I was gonna say, I thought about that. It says, that type of love is without essentially a requirement, but I think the requirement is without agenda. Well, I think the agenda is the fact that you're the child. I mean, there are some mothers who don't love their child, who give up their children. Genuinely. I don't. I mean, again, I can't be a mother, but you do see it. There are some, of course, who do give it up and absolutely love their children. But there are just a few that are out there who don't want children, don't care for it. But they get pregnant and, to give up the child, which is at least a good thing. They're doing a good thing because they don't want to take care of the child, so at least they're giving up for adoption instead of letting the child kind of, other things. Just put it that way. Again, regardless of whether you want to be a mother or not, do the responsible thing, and there's no harm, no foul on that. Honestly, you got pregnant by accident or whatever, as long as you give up the child for adoption and it goes to a loving parents, I think this is still a great thing, because there are people out there, unfortunately can't have babies and want to have a baby in a sense, in a sense that they can't give birth but adopt one. Then it's not an all loss situation. But again, the condition is the fact that you're the child, though. And then even then, still, there are some mothers out there who just don't love their babies. I think they're it's people who are, I believe they're called psychopaths. They're not. I don't want to say they're crazy, but they just lack this empathy, I guess. And it's not necessarily their fault. It's just something. I don't know what it is. I'm, again, not a biologist or anything, but I know it does exist, but I just don't know how. I don't know what it is or what's causing it. It's just they lack sympathy for other people, and I wouldn't doubt that they don't care about other people. It's not because they choose not to care. It's something within them. But anyways,
this type of love we can actualize by realizing that this is not our only life. We've had many, many, many lifetimes, and in many, many lifetimes, every single lifetime we've had a mother that was just as kind to us as the one we had in this life. And that perhaps right now we don't recognize who these mothers were in our previous lives and their previous lives, but definitely we would have to have a mother if we were to take rebirth. So therefore, remembering that you've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of lifetimes for countless aeons of what explored with them. So if we live in a small city, if we live there long enough, eventually we'd be familiar with everybody in that city. Similarly, when you've been in samsara long enough, you're going to have to meet the same people over and over and over again. So they must have been our mother at one time or another.
Okay, so I get what it's trying to say. Okay. I mean, interesting. I never thought about the rebirth part of, there's another love like that exists outside of a mother and child relationship. That obviously in your past lives you had mothers then too. Um, and then I guess, technically speaking, if there is eons of this, that eventually all of us was born into a female body and have given birth, and we're all essentially mothers to each other. Well, not to each other, but to someone on this planet, because you don't get to choose what body you get born in, I believe. Again, not completely sure in terms of like reincarnation, whether you're constantly being, if you're a male, you're constantly being born male. I have a feeling that's not the case. Having a feeling the case is that when you're reborn, not your choosing. You're just reborn into a body, whether that be an animal's body or a female or male's body or whatever other bodies there are. Planet body, I don't think about that one, but you get what I'm saying. But you get reborn, but not if you're choosing.
So since they were our mother at one time or another, they are equivalent to the mother of this life in the sense that if we can remove their suffering and the causes of their suffering and the actual problems that they encounter, if we can remove that from the roots, it is our responsibility to do so. So when we think we have to take care of all mother sentient beings, how? If we physically go out and take care of all mother sentient beings one by one, that would be wonderful. But even someone so great like Mother Teresa, who dedicated her whole life, she wouldn't be able to touch everybody in samsara. Even if Mother Teresa lived for 1,000 years, she would still not be able to touch everybody in samsara. So my point is, how do we do that? We can help the people around us. We should be as helpful as we can and forgiving as we can. Yes, but for us to spend our lives just physically giving food and money and gifts and shelter to people is nice. But on a deeper level, if we can become an attained person, if we can become a fully enlightened being, then the benefit we can bring to others is much greater. Example, if you were a nurse and you went to an earthquake-struck area to help victims, or you were a doctor, the benefit is very, very different. Like that, on our level, the way we're able to help people is not bad, and we have good intention, but it's not powerful enough. So therefore, how to make it powerful is by creating attainments within our mind.
Real quick too, so it almost seems like he's talking about just mothers and mothers only, as in the biological sex of female. But again, I'm not too sure. Let me explain to me. When you're reborn, do you get to choose your body, or are you always, if you're a male, you're always born into a male body? If you're a female, you're always born into a female body, or if you're reborn, you can be born back to a male or female body. So I don't remember in terms of Advaita Vedanta. I believe you don't choose. I believe you just are reborn into a body, so that either male or female. Again, this is I believe Tibet Buddhism. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's the same too, but again, the way it's explaining it almost seems like if you're a mother, you're always female.
So when we create attainments within our mind,
reborn as female,
we control our mind, our body, and our speech will definitely follow. We can be a tremendous benefit and tremendous help to other people. So therefore, Bodhicitta is realizing that all mother sentient beings have been kind to us in one way or another at one time or another, and that everybody deserves freedom from unhappiness and suffering.
Everybody.
So I will take that responsibility, that I will sacrifice my time, my energy, my pursuits, and we can reach that level. Maybe at this time, at this moment, it's hard, but to even hear the word Bodhicitta, according to the great master Shantideva, plants seeds in our mind that's incredibly powerful. Without Bodhicitta, without the thought that I wish to take responsibility for others, I wish to take responsibility for the benefit of others, I wish to bring benefit to others, continuously without agenda, that mind to arise is very, very powerful. When that mind arises, the first thing you see to go in you is intolerance. Intolerance of other people, intolerance of the situation around you, prejudice and bias will go away. And also, tolerance of the difficulties you go through. Tolerance if your partner is difficult, tolerance if your children is difficult, tolerance if your parents sometimes manifest difficulty. Tolerance will arise in your mind when some sort of bodhicitta starts to arise in your mind. That's the first sign, all right? And what's tolerance? Tolerance is being able to tahan or to take difficulties for the sake of others. So when we practice Dharma, when we engage in Dharma practice, the first person that we should practice great tolerance to is our partners. It could be our wife, it could be our husband, it could be our friend, it could be someone very kind to us. So if the people around us, we can't practice tolerance, but we pray for tolerance, we pray for world peace, we pray for bodhicitta, then it's very empty, because what we do is, when we pray to the three jewels, any of the three jewels, to our idams or whatever, for tolerance, we plant the seeds to be able to achieve it in the future, but how soon into the future is questionable depending on our practice. So what happens is, when we practice tolerance around us, to our friends, to our lovers, to our husbands and wives, and to the people around us, immediately we practice tolerance. What is the practice of tolerance? To be patient with the perceived faults we see in them. To be patient. Because needless to say, we don't know how many times they've been very patient with us for things that we didn't even know we did. So when we're very patient with the people around us, when we're very, very patient, when we develop that would be wonderful. And that would be helped by what? That would be helped by our meditation in Bodhicitta. There's a wonderful book called Meaningful to Behold, translated into English. It's a writing on Bodhisattva Charyavatara, and it's written by the great Master Shantideva. I read that book maybe 25, 26, 27 years ago, and it made a great impact in my mind. A very, very impact. I was very young. And if all of you would get that book and read it in the correct mood, not like a romance novel, to study, to listen, to think about, contemplate, you'll have great benefits. Why it talks totally about developing this state of mind that takes responsibility for oneself, that takes responsibility for others, that takes responsibility for beyond people who bring us pleasure or give us what we want. You see, it's very easy to take responsibility for one's wife, and one's parents, one's children. You're supposed to. You're taught to do that. But to take responsibility for people who absolutely have no connection to you or does not benefit you is incredible. And when we develop that mind, we are worshipped by the gods. We are respected by the people around us. Our countenance becomes pleasurable to others. We are protected from all types of spirits and demons. Our mind becomes peaceful. We are on the correct stages to becoming a fully enlightened being. No Buddha is without Bodhicitta. No Buddha. One of Buddha's ingredients, descriptions, is that he must have fully realized Bodhicitta. So if we wish to become a Buddha, and that's why we practice Dharma, Bodhicitta is very, very important. Even if we don't wish to practice to become a Buddha, but we simply want to have a better life, even in that way, if we practice Bodhicitta, it would be tremendously beneficial. Imagine if we can practice the teachings of Lord Buddha, really, really practice, and I don't mean chanting. People have a wrong view that Buddhism has to do with chanting. No. Chanting is a very small part of Buddhism. Buddhism has to do with logical explanations to pinpoint our problems and to add a correct antidote and to apply it over time to bring a happier person, happier family, happier society, which will contribute to world peace. If we ourselves are not happy, how can we make people around us happy? If we ourselves cannot make people around us happy, how can we talk about world peace? The world is not at peace, not because other people are creating problems, because our own mind is not at peace. So what's very, very important is, when we develop Bodhicitta, you will see your mind transform and change. You will gain control of your life, gain control of your destiny. And Bodhicitta is very simply, although it's not simple, taking responsibility for yourself. Taking responsibility when you do wrong, and to not hide. And when you do right, to rejoice, and also not wear a t-shirt and advertise what you've done wonderful. But Bodhicitta is taking responsibility for oneself and one's mistakes. And it's okay to make mistakes, because me and you, all of us, we're normal human beings. We get wrong thoughts, we have doubts, we get angry, we get jealous, and we make a lot of mistakes. Making mistakes is not the big issue, but not owning up to them and denying them is a very, very big issue. Why? Then when we hide it, then it builds in others and builds in us. So even if we take refuge in Bodhicitta and we practice Bodhicitta teachings and we believe in it, and we practice the letting go of the mind, acceptance of our mistakes, and we move on, you experience incredible freedom. You feel light and feel happy, because all of us are very good people. So if we practice the Bodhicitta teachings, not necessarily you're a Buddhist, not necessarily you need to have a Buddha statue, not necessarily that you become ordained. But practicing bodhicitta also can be beneficial in society in general, whatever religion or not religion or atheist you are. So that's an incredible point of Lord Buddha's teachings. It's applicable to all sentient beings. Alright?
I would say, like, I do agree, like, with the Bodhicitta. At least what he's talking about taking responsibility for your action and owning up to it instead of denying it. To me, I remember that being, like, essentially karma. When you do action and how do I say, and that action is unjust or it hurts someone, you if you don't own up to it, you start to feel guilty inside. You'll have this, and it's kind of like essentially karma getting back at you. You're not happy anymore because you're miserable. You're like, oh my god, I should have owned up to that. I feel so bad for that person. And every time you think of it, because you've not, in a sense, I don't know the right word, cleanse yourself by asking for forgiveness or owning up to it, it'll continue to eat you and eat you alive. Not literally, but you get that guilt again where you're like, oh man, every time you think about it, it'll always keep eating at you. So owning up to your mistakes and stuff like that will at least get rid of your guilt, which in a lot of sense is karma. Because again, if you do bad karma, you almost get the karma right back at you almost immediately, because you are unhappy, you feel guilty, and sometimes even to the point where you can't really do much other than kind of just wallow in your guilt for a little bit. And then once you get over that, if someone were to remind you of that incident again, you probably feel that guilt come right back again and again and again for every time it's reminded of you, until eventually, with enough reminders, you will get through it, but you've suffered for a very long time. That's one way I look at karma too, is kind of like that. Whether the karma's over with after that or not, I don't know. Maybe there's more to it, like as in you're still being punished for it, but you thinking about it doesn't punish you anymore. There could be other punishments. I'm not sure. But anyways, that's my reaction to Three Principal Paths. The two, Bodhicitta, which I do agree with. Again, take responsibility for your actions. Own up to it. At least you won't suffer so much for it, but you'll take the punishment right up front. So if you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up the sign down below. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next vid.